What is up, chat? Welcome to the Deeper Level tonight. I am your host, Deeper Depths, and let me tell you, we have a phenomenal podcast and a great guest that's going to be on in just a second. But I see some of you already coming on and tuning in. Hey, what is going on? Let's go. That's it. Put your comments in the chat. We're going to be chatty and interactive tonight. Appreciate each and every one of you that's been rocking with us here on the Deeper Level. We have just now kicked off a month or so ago, season 2 of the Deeper Level. And we had some great guests on for season 1. And I am super, super grateful for each and every person who was a part of this podcast. You know, we launched literally with nothing last September, and we're just so grateful for the growth that we've been able to experience. And that is not anything that we could do by ourselves. It is because of you, those of you who tune in and support us. So make sure that you like this and share this. Make sure that you sub to this channel. Also hit that notification bell so you're notified every time that I go live and more content becomes available right here on this channel. This has been a huge week, you all, because we got a chance to see the PlayStation Showcase on this past Wednesday, which I have no complaints about it. I was very, very impressed with some of the titles that came up and that were shown. Some of the things I were not expecting, some things we were expecting, but overall, I would say that it was a great showcase. So again, make sure that you like and subscribe. If you're over on Twitter, make sure that you share this and just get the word out, because we have a great guest that is going to be on, and I'm getting ready to present him now in just a moment, but I want to formally introduce him. He is a YouTuber and content creator with a channel, check this out, that is dedicated solely to everyone's favorite symbiote, Venom, the creator and the host of the Venom vlog and also the Parasite podcast. Help me to welcome my special guest today, Siike. How are you today, sir?
Hey, and I didn't forget to unmute. I got
Yes.
it. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate this.
Yes, sir. No problem at all, man. It was an honor just to have you come on and be able to chat. You know, I had the opportunity and privilege to be on your podcast, the Parasite podcast, and we had such a phenomenal time and found out that we had so much in common. You know, it's really unique just how much gaming, you know, comic book characters, how much this stuff just unites us in general. So much in common. And man, you know, you've just been a friend throughout this time that we've had a chance to know each other. And I really just appreciate your friendship, brother. And I wanted to say that publicly.
Oh, that's very nice of you. And I feel the same way. As soon as I tapped into your stream and watched you play Midnight Suns, I was like, I already like this guy. And then when I found out we liked Final Fantasy Tactics and we liked all
Yes.
these other things the same, I was like, holy crap. And I've shared with you things that I don't talk about a lot publicly, like where I've worked before, which I know we'll get into. And you're like, what? You did that? And I immediately was like, I made a best friend, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You have a friend in me. And again, I
Awesome.
was very, very impressed with just you know, your work ethic, your commitment to the craft, your experience, you know, just kind of where you've been, the things you've done, the people that you've met. And I thought that you would be a perfect person to bring on this podcast and also give others the opportunity to connect with you. I'm going to run a banner right now across the bottom of the screen. Those of you who are watching, make sure that you go now on YouTube. First things first, and subscribe to his channel. I've actually got it down at the very bottom of the screen, but would you just let us know how we can connect with you also, Siike?
Well, I'm a mostly private guy, so I pretty much just have YouTube and Instagram. So it's at the Venom Vlog. That's my handle on YouTube, and at the Venom Vlog on Instagram as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Good deal. I'll keep that scrolling so that everybody can see that throughout the entirety of the stream. I want to say, I must admit that I was drawn to your channel because of the uniqueness of it when creating this channel that you have. What was the motivation and inspiration to go solely Venom? What was that about?
It wasn't planned, I'll tell you that. When I started my channel, I really loved this young man up in Canada named Alex, and he does a show called The Ragin' Nation, and it's a show dedicated solely to Transformers, specifically at that time the Michael Bay movies. And I got swept up, and he had a regular job just like me, came home, and that was his hobby, was to make a video about what's happening in the next Transformers movie. And I just fell in love with that. So I started a Transformer channel here. And then it went from Transformers to Star Wars, back to Transformers, to video games to toy reviews. And then when I was ready, I went through a kind of a rough patch in 2016, and when and I was starting to Twitch stream around that time, and I f- I think of like a year or so later, they announced that Tom Hardy was going to play Venom, and he's my favorite actor. So when I heard that, I said, "Well, I'll see what happens. Like, I don't know how this is going to work, how they're going to do Venom without Spider-Man, kind of thing." I go, "So I'll just wait and see." And he released a video where he was like doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and kickboxing to train for the role, and I did a reaction to it, and then I decided, well, I'm going to try to do some weight loss and fitness in my own life, and and then also talk about Venom, since Venom's a gym junkie. And I never really stuck with the workout routine, but I did stick with the Venom show because surprisingly, there were people that just wanted to know more about this movie because they were like, "How can this work? How do you know?" And I said, I don't have all the answers. I know of Venom. I like the character, but I'm not an encyclopedia of them. I go, so let's become one together, and that's what created the show. Was people going, we need to know more. So I said, all right, well, while we're waiting for movie news, let's go through the comic book history issue by issue, and then
Mhm.
we've ended up at nearly 800 episodes now in 5 years.
Wow. 800 episodes, man. That is just an impressive body of work. So you definitely are not new to this. You are true to this. And I just thought that it would be really, really cool to ask you some of the questions that we're going to get into later. Now, I heard you mention Tom Hardy, who has just had an iconic career. I mean, everything from playing Bane.
Yeah.
He just gets all of these dream jobs and these dream roles. Have you ever had an opportunity to meet Tom Hardy or come face to face with him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. Like a year after we started the show, my friend Andrew, who I met at the Justice League premiere back when they did the red carpet premiere for that movie,
Right.
um, I made a friend there in line, and we kept in touch over the years. And he was we used to go to screenings all the time in LA because like we're two young men, didn't have a lot of money, so free movies early, like we jumped at the chance every chance we got. And he was my kind of like my screening movie buddy and friend. And then one day he was like, hey, are you going to come to this screening? Because we didn't know if it was Venom or not. We just heard that it was a Sony movie, and they were going to show it off at the Grove. And we were like, yeah, but it's like 2 weeks from the actual movie coming out. I don't know if they'll do it this soon, and keep it this secret. I feel like they would announce it, and they didn't. They kept it a secret, and they kept it such a secret that they didn't even announce that Tom Hardy was going to be at the viewing of this movie.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm not going to go. I don't feel good, and I have health issues. So my friend was like, all right, no problem. And then the day of, he was like, dude, I'm here. I'm like the 12th person in line, and I'm hearing them talk about Tom might be here. And I was like, you're kidding.
Wow.
So I was like, headache or not, didn't feel well. I was like, screw it. I'm getting dressed and I'm driving down to the Grove. And I went down there, and sure as anything, Tom showed up, and we got to watch Venom with Tom Hardy. And
Wow.
then after the movie, he hung out for like 45 minutes and met every single person that watched the movie, asked them what they thought, asked them for feedback. Hey, is there anything we can do better in the next one? Obviously, everyone was like, Carnage, Carnage, we want Carnage. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, we're working on all that stuff. And then he did an intro for my channel. He was like, hey, I'm Tom Hardy, and you're watching the Venom vlog. And then again, 2 years later, right before I left California, went up to San Francisco and was on the set of Venom Let There Be Carnage. And Tom came out.
Wow.
Tom came out, shook all of our hands, met us, took photos after like a 12-hour filming day, and still came over and hung out with us. So yeah, amazing guy.
Man, that is incredible. You hear, people always say the old statement of, never meet your heroes, blah, 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 blah. But
Yeah,
I will say, I really want to commend Tom and some of the other individuals that I've heard so many great things about who, just go the extra mile to, really show appreciation for the support of their fans. Because again, without the fans, even the actors themselves don't really have a promising career, so the fan base plays a huge part of it. But just to know that you've had the opportunity not to meet him just once, but twice, and
yeah,
have that type of interaction both times is just, phenomenal. And again, to me, I think that, he was great casting for that role. I love the first movie. The second movie, liked it as well. And I just think that, I can't wait to see, more of him. Hopefully we did see him in that scene of, No Way Home. So,
Yeah.
who knows what the future holds. Have you heard anything about that?
There there are things I hear sometimes, and I try really hard not to repeat them, and I even
Right.
ask not to be told
Got
things
it.
sometimes because, I like going in as a fan. I like being on the level of my viewers too.
Sure.
So for me, like, sometimes things slip in conversation, but usually it's not big things. Like, I'm not like, I'm a fan and I love this stuff, but some of the people I talk to, they're pretty cool about, like, oh, we know he doesn't really want spoilers, and I don't want to be used as like a scooper or
Right.
a rumor guy. Like, I'm not into any of that stuff. I just when Deadline reports it or Hollywood Reporter, one of the big trades reports it, then I cover the story, and I like doing
Got
it
it.
that way. So yeah, it just keeps me even with viewers, and it also gives my viewers a chance to send me stuff because I might be at work when an announcement, like, the other day they announced Chiwetel Ejiofor is possibly going to be in Venom 3 cast, and I was like, that's amazing, I love him from
Yes.
Firefly to Mordo and Doctor Strange, and I'm like, he's an amazing actor, and someone
Yes.
sent that to me, and I'm like, that's great. This is why I like, to me, when you said earlier about community and building and working together and stuff, like, that's what Venom is. He's a one person community. And so
Yeah.
I like saying, like, on the show, I'm like, we are Venom, because when they first announced the first movie in Brazil Comic Con and they showed the first footage, the whole audience chanted, "We are Venom." And that used to be my intro of my YouTube channel, because I was like, that represents us. Anyone who comes here automatically is part of the hive.
Wow. Wow. And I did want to also plug the lady that created your actual
Oh,
graphic.
my current,
Um
yeah, current graphic, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I thought that that was just, brilliant, and you're really uh playing the part and are very in character always, even when chatting with you from emails to, just your vlog. I think that's a huge thing. Can you just give a shout out and let people know who created that for you?
Yeah, that's Miranda Parkin. She's at Parkin, Parkin, at Parkin Art on YouTube. I mean, on Instagram. I think she has other platforms, obviously, too. But she's an amazing artist. Sometimes she does commissions, but mainly she's busy. She's an animator. So
Right.
but yeah, I did a comic book for brain aneurysm awareness like 10 years ago, and that's how I met her. And a lot of artists, we had over 150 people draw on that comic book. We almost set a
Wow.
Guinness Book of World Record. Um, so for the most artists on one comic book, we were very close. And she was one of the artists, and so we stayed in touch. And she was like, "Yeah, I'd love to do something." And PJ Katakutin, he's now working at IDW with Kevin Eastman, who created the Ninja Turtles, and
Yes.
he and they I got them both to work on a cover for my book 10 years ago. And Kevin Eastman did two of the covers, one that I drew with Kevin Eastman, and then one Kevin
Uh-huh.
Eastman did by himself, and PJ colored it. And now PJ's working on Ninja Turtle covers for the Last Ronin and the Usagi Yojimbo crossover and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Like, the networking and the people you meet, and as long as you are cool and stay positive and respectful. And so yeah, a long story. Like, Miranda's amazing. She did my current avatar for my channel. I was diagnosed not too long ago, or a year and a half ago, with OSDD1A. So I wanted an avatar where it's me, because PJ did my old avatar, and I've had every season I hire a new artist to do my artwork, and
Sure.
pay them, because I believe artists should be paid. And so she PJ did mine, and he did my face turning into Venom, but that was borderlining copyright infringement a little bit. So
Gotcha.
this one I wanted just me, and then she put two of my alters, like blue and green, as symbiotes coming off talking to me, and that's where the idea for that came. And she nailed it. She's an amazing artist.
Wow,
Yeah,
beautiful, man. Yeah, I really love that avatar when you sent that to me to use as the official pick for the flyer and promo that we did advertising our podcast tonight. I just thought that that was super, super cool. So I definitely wanted to get a plug and a shout out for her while we were
thank you.
live, because she did such a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
You've had the chance to just work with so many interesting individuals and meet so many interesting individuals. You actually had a chance to work with someone who wrote Black Panther comics. Talk to us about that for a second.
Yeah. So a lot. So I will preface by saying a lot of this, what you're about to hear, is not my recollection of these stories. This is so when I was in my 20s, I used to work in film and production and comic books and stuff like that, and had a privilege to work with a lot of people that I admired. And I know you earlier said, don't meet your heroes. I always love that Donald Glover episode in Community where he meets LeVar Burton and he's just like, he doesn't know what to say, and LeVar Burton turns out to be really cool to him. And and I always like that because most of the heroes I met, it sounds like I had great experiences with. So when I was working on those shows, I would keep journals because we had to sign NDAs when you work on movies and TV shows. You're
Sure.
not really allowed to talk about that stuff. This was pre MySpace days, some of these stories. So what what I ended up doing was just keeping journals, and I would take a couple photos that didn't really give away anything just to have as mementos, and I'd write
Sure.
around it. Here's who I worked with. So it was cool to like go through these journals that my mom saved for me post brain aneurysm, where I had no memories prior to the aneurysm. And she was going, we were going through these, and I was just learning about this life I had in California, where I got to work with Reggie Hudlin, who you're talking about, who was a hero of mine as a kid. He made movies like House Party, Bebe's Kids. He's worked with Eddie Murphy. He's worked with a lot of talented people, and he worked on the Milestone comic books like Static Shock and
Yeah.
all those
Yeah.
guys. Like he was part of the birth of that. Like amazingly talented dude. And around 2008, this was I think right before the writer strike or somewhere around that era, or right after. He was running BET, and I got an opportunity to go work at BET for the BET Awards and a couple other things for BET, and it was amazing. And the coolest thing is it's one of those things where I'm reading it in the journal and I'm like, well, that sounds cool. Like I wonder if that guy would remember me. It seemed like it was a big deal for me to meet him. And when I went back to LA post aneurysm, I was working at a comic book store called Golden Apple Comics and down in Hollywood, and world renowned. I mean, that comic store's been around
Yeah.
for 40 plus years. When we were growing up in Wizard magazine, they would always list the greatest signings: Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane. Like everyone was always signing there, and it was cool. I got to work there, and everyone there, Ryan and his family, they all treated me like I became a part of the family. And one day I was working, and Reggie came in, and he did a double take, and I go, hello, sir. Like, how can I help you? And then they're like, oh, that's Reggie. He runs, he used to run BET, and now he's doing Black Panther comics and everything. And I go, wait a minute. And I was like,
Yeah.
I worked for you. And he goes, you worked for me. And he was like, oh my God, how are you? And I was like, that's amazing. So even after a couple years later, still the coolest guy in the world. But yeah, it sounded like I had a blast working for him at BET, and it sounded like every day was like a dream job. Definitely.
Wow, man, that is incredible. With that,
Mhm.
not only just Reggie, but again, you have just I'm telling you, man, a plethora of amazing stories, and I'm trying to certainly maximize our time, but
Sure.
it's just always phenomenal to get the opportunity to hear you express these things. You actually had the opportunity to meet one of my favorite directors,
Mhm.
who is Anton Fuqua. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
I did, yeah. Another person I was a huge fan of. I loved Replacement Killers, and that was written in my journal. Like when I was reading and I had to reread these the other day after I knew you were going to ask me about them. So I was like, oh yeah, I better get some of these a little bit fresher in my mind. But I was a big fan of Replacement Killers. He had done that. It was a remake of a movie from overseas, and he did a killer job on it. No pun intended. And he I guess I've gravitated to his stuff, everything from like Training Day and other things he's worked on. And then I think it was, and then, but Equalizer is like the current stuff he's doing. And he's amazing. He's an amazing director. I mean, I think in my notes it said that I worked with him. We were doing a commercial together, and I was kind of his driver. So for like 3 days, I was just going to pick him up at his hotel, bringing him to set, hanging out with him. If he ever needed to go anywhere or needed to errand run, I was pretty much the guy who took care of it for him. And then I was bringing. He was like, I was telling him, I guess, about my artwork because before my aneurysm, I was pursuing comic book art, and I had all these drawings and sketches of things that I've always wanted to see in live action. And he was like, bring that to me tomorrow. And I came, and he
Wow.
spent like 30 minutes taking a break from the set that we were on and just going through my drawings with me and going, this is amazing, this is awesome, and he was like, you ever come out to LA, look me up, I'll try to help you find work. And I actually did, like a year after that, went and tried to chase him down in LA and ended up getting work, not through him directly, but ended up
Sure.
working in the industry. So just amazing guy. I mean, I'm such a huge fan, even now post aneurysm, relearning all this and seeing that. And so it looked like I made an impression on him. And again, to do that to one of your heroes is like, how lucky am I? And to do it a couple times, because even Tom knew when we met Tom Hardy, he was like, oh, the Venom vlog, and you're
Yeah.
like, what? so so it's one of those things where I'm like, even with all the obstacles and health stuff in my life and the bad, like I was saying earlier, I had a rough week, even had a rough day today. I didn't even make it through my whole work day today before I had to come home. So, but how can I really complain about any of that when I have these stories to share with you?
Absolutely, man. And that's another thing that, I admire so much about you as a person. You always focus on the positives, and that's how I am as a streamer, as a content creator. There's never been any drama on my channel. Like
Yeah.
you don't find me on Twitter going back and forth with people. It's just not something that I do. Yeah, of course, we'll disagree with people in life, man. But again, I always try my best to keep it positive. And I see that same thing about you, man. So just what a stellar work experience and just career that you've been having. What are your thoughts? Let's shift gears a little bit,
Yeah.
because I know people are going to want to know this. What are your thoughts on the PlayStation showcase? Did you get excited for the reveals, for the things that they showed?
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things where I don't really pay attention a lot of times to what other people think of things. And it's not to sound like a jerk or anything, but I kind of don't care.
Yeah,
But there are people like you and other people that I tune into and I've connected with, that I am curious. I'm like, oh, even if it leads to a discussion where we disagree, I'm like, I want to hear what my friends think about this, and and online peers and stuff. So for me, when I watched the showcase, I really liked it, and it kind of floored me last night. Like, I was watching some reactions to it, and people were being very negative. I'm like, I mean, I get it. Everyone's not going to agree on some things, but it's just those videos where they're like, "This was trash, like nothing good." Why they wasted this, and I found myself as like a casual gamer. I would say I used to be a hardcore gamer, but now I'm 41, so I'm kind of a casual. I just pick
sure.
what I like. It's like so when I'm watching the first four trailers were games I'd never even heard of, and most of them were sequels. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it looks beautiful. It looks great.
Mhm.
And then it got to Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, oh
Yes.
my God, they're remaking Snake Eater? Like, I didn't even know that was in development. And of course, people that are younger than me were like, what are you, stupid? You didn't know that was rumored like 8 months ago? And I'm like, dude, no, I had no idea. Um, and then they're going to do an HD master collection of the first three, and so that got me excited. I think that was the first time in the presentation where I like got accelerated energy.
Yeah.
And then Alan Wake was definitely the peak
Oh,
for me.
yes.
I showed
Yes.
this off in my video. So Alan Wake, the first one came out right before my aneurysm rupture, and it was the last game I played before my aneurysm rupture.
Wow.
And then it was one of the first games I played post aneurysm, like months and months and months later, because as I was going through physical therapy and speech therapy and other things, there was things we needed to, we were concerned about, like my comprehension skills, my deduction abilities. So someone had actually recommended video games, and luckily I had all my video games on the Xbox 360. So I got to play them and kind of, learn, hand-eye coordination again,
Sure.
and things like that through games like Halo and other things. And Alan Wake was one of those first games that I played, although I love the other games I was playing, that I felt really pulled into. And and so ever since then, I've been signing petitions, going online, buying Quantum Break when that came out to support Remedy Studios, buying Control when that came out to support Remedy Studios. I wanted to keep supporting them because I wanted another Alan Wake game, and that was 13 years ago. And during this whole time, I even got a mag light. They only made 40 of these. They're from Alan Wake, signed by
Wow.
Sam Lake.
Wow.
Sam Lake. He gave me number 11 because that's my favorite number, my lucky number. And it has an Alan Wake mag light in it, so I'll never
Oh
be
my
left.
goodness.
Because I mean, they know my story too over at Remedy, that I don't have visual memory anymore, which is one of the reasons why it's so hard for me to draw, is
Sure.
because if I close my eyes, it's just darkness, it's just black. And so so they sent me this as like a way
Wow.
of like they saying like you'll never be in the dark again. And I
Wow.
was like, oh my god. So and then they sent me t-shirts. I mean, they're amazing over there. And then boom, we get Alan Wake 2. So that freaked me out. My reaction to that's finally going to go up tonight on my channel. And then Spider-Man, obviously. I mean, I know we're going to talk about that, but
Yes.
holy cow, that also made me jump out of my chair.
Now, I will say this. We all knew just, hypothetically that Spider-Man 2 would have a presence at
Mhm.
the PlayStation Showcase, because for 2 years, Insomniac was just dead silent. They
Yeah,
announced it in 2021 that they were working on it, but we heard absolutely nothing from Insomniac for the next 2 years. So we knew that it was going to be there, but I'm thinking, okay, we would be lucky to get 5 to 6 minutes of footage. Some people were saying it'll probably be more realistic, like 2 to 3 minutes of footage. We'll probably get one trailer and then that's it. But man, oh man, let me tell you, we got 12 minutes of Spider-Man 2 footage, and I was just blown away. As a Venom connoisseur, there
mhm.
is no better person to ask these next few questions to than
Okay,
you, my friend. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people that are wondering this as well. From the moment that Peter came out in the symbiote suit, because before they showed this, there was a lot of people wondering would he actually get the symbiote.
right.
We kept hearing that Venom was going to be in the game. It was confirmed. We knew it. We know that Tony Todd, who I've had a chance to interview on this channel, was going to be voicing Venom. But we did not really know what all that would look like. So here it is. Peter comes out of the basement in the symbiote suit. Um, I was just floored, brother. I can't even imagine what your reaction was like. Did they nail the design? Are you satisfied with the design of how the symbiote looks on Peter?
Well, I mean, yes, but I also don't know what the symbiote is. Like, in because we saw it at the end of the first game, and it was attached to Harry,
Right.
and it was keeping him alive in that tank, that Bacta tank or whatever from Star Wars. And then in Miles, at the end of Miles, we saw Kirk Connors and Norman Osborn saying, "Okay, we're going to finally let Harry out." So, this I just didn't expect the symbiote to leave Harry and bond to Peter in this universe. I thought they were just going to have Harry be Venom in the game and
Mm-hmm.
that we weren't going to see Eddie. But now I'm like, well, if it left Harry already, because I'm guessing this is probably a couple hours into the game, is when the footage we saw, because even Miles is surprised, like, what's up with the new threads, you know? So,
Yeah.
but that look when he comes out and all the tentacles are all coming out of him and he's like looks like Ursula and he lands and then it's like it's finding its shape like in the first few seconds. Like you actually watch it evolve in that 12 minutes because even at the end his eyes are shaped more venomish
Yes.
by the end of that 12 minutes than they were at the
Absolutely.
beginning. So the suit is it all looks like it's already evolving, but I don't know if it's an alien from outer space. I don't know if it was a science experiment that was created by Oscorp, like like Ultimate Spider-Man style, where it was Peter's dad and Eddie's dad. Like I don't know where the origin of the suit is, so I don't know if it's an alien adapting to his look, or if it's if it's like a thing created in the lab that you know I don't know. We don't know what it is, but as far as the look goes, I thought they nailed it for this universe. It can't. I saw some people saying, "Ah, I wish it was more fabricy looking," and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, but Spider-Man's suit isn't very fabricy looking.
Right.
There's like text, there's layers to his suit. There's like body armor under some of it. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, it's not. So it's not a clean thing like in the comics where he wears tights. So it would make sense the symbiote is like trying to figure out which elements to replicate in its appearance. So for me, I'm like, I like it so far. I think it caught me off guard because, like I said, I wasn't expecting it.
Yes, and you know what? I don't think that any of us were. And after seeing that, it's now caused people to speculate. And I want to get your thoughts on this
Mhm.
as well. Of course, going into this before we saw any of the footage that was released at the PlayStation Showcase, we were all just assuming that Harry was going to be Venom. Based
Right.
on what we've seen in the previous game. With Spider-Man 1 and just kind of what was building up and what we knew about the lore of this universe, as you stated. But now people are speculating whether, Peter is actually going to
Be Venom.
become Venom. What in your knowledge of Venom as a character, and even with comics, do you feel, if that is direction that they went, that is a good direction to go, or do you? I mean, because personally, I was set on it being Harry. I've even had a conversation with people back and forth over whether it would be Eddie Brock or whatever the case was, but I was set on it being Harry. But would it make sense to have Peter become Venom?
Well, without knowing the story, really, it's hard to say. I would say that as a storyteller, that would open up a lot of avenues to where maybe Harry gets a heroic moment in the story to try to save Peter. It opens up a moment for Miles to shine as the person who defeats Venom. Um, so it does give opportunities for other characters to have really big heroic moments if Peter is unable to separate himself from the suit on his own. Um, so I would say it would be neat. I mean, I'm always a fan of something different. I know I have some people who watch my channel that they're just the hardcore. They want Venom the way he is, either as a villain, some people, and some as an anti-hero, and they're just like, that's the only version I like. I don't like him any other way. I don't want him to be under a different host. I don't want him to be Harry or Matt Gargan or Peter. I have those fans that are like that, but for me, as a creator, it's like even for episode 800 of my Venom vlog, I got a bunch of my audience, and viewers to create their own version of Venom. And the 800 episode is a celebration of all of us creating our own Venom from the Venom verse. And I've noticed that most of us do something different. Even the people who are sticklers for him being the way he's always portrayed in a certain way. And I'm like, see, this is what I mean. Once you're in the creator's chair, you don't want to just rinse and repeat. You want to add something and do something different. If you love that Eddie Brock,
Wow.
where he struggles with good and evil, and he's an anti-hero and whatnot, and he has a contentious relationship with Peter Parker, play Midnight Suns. You will get an amazing version of Eddie Brock
Yes.
there. But I think I'm willing to give Insomniac a little creative license to do something that might surprise all of us. So if that rumor is true, and if that is a possibility, I know under the guise of Insomniac, I'm willing to trust them. They've earned my trust.
Absolutely. And I like the way that you said that. I interviewed Brittany Morris on this channel before, who is, one of the writers for Marvel Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac, and she's also writing for Wolverine PS5. And again, I think the thing that I'm the most mind blown about is because, we saw some of the new HUD, how it looked. We saw some of the new mechanics that are introduced, like even with Miles bending the poles, to
Right.
get that blast off.
Slingshot. Yeah.
Dude, that slingshot was
Yeah.
when I saw that, man, I'm telling you, there's just so much that Insomniac has going for itself. And of course, Jim Ryan said that developing this game solely and exclusively for PS5, building it from the ground up, allowed them to have no compromises. And I like the way that sounds. Again, we see Lizard in the trailer. We see, Craven in the trailer. We see the 8 individuals on the tablet that, Craven is going to be hunting. We saw Wraith. We saw Taskmaster.
Right.
We saw Peters. We saw Miles. There's just a lot going for this game.
Yeah.
Speaking of Craven, again, it seems as if, because again, he doesn't really mess with anybody. Somebody had mentioned that Fisk could potentially be, funding Craven.
Sure.
You just never really know what the overall plot would be. But back to what you said, if there's anybody we would trust to do a fresh take on something like this, it definitely would be Insomniac. So I think, we're going to be mind blown, because giving us 12 minutes of footage and showing us as much as they showed still lets me know that they've got some, cats in the bag, some secrets up their sleeve that they have not even revealed yet. So I think that, we're just in for a great shock with this game. And I thought it looked great. Of course, there's some people debating and arguing right now, which we know that's, just a part of the
Yeah.
culture
It
and
happens.
today that we live in, the times, over how the game looked. But personally, when I go back and watch it, especially in 4K, I mean, this game looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it looks great. And that intro with Craven, it's funny. So back in 2007, also, I was working at Sony before BET, and me and two other young men that I worked with, we wrote a Spider-Man 4 script trying to sell it to Sony as a potential Sam Raimi fourth movie, because Sam Raimi originally, I think there was an idea to do Spider-Man 3 and 4 together,
Uh-huh.
and have the Vulture in it, and all this stuff, and it never came to pass. But we knew Sony really wanted a Sinister Six thing, so our friends, me and two friends, we wrote and registered it with the WGA and got it, approved and sent in and stuff. That we wrote a script where it was Craven, and the opening of the story was crave it was like the plains of Africa, and you see a gazelle or something, and then a lion is like creeping around a bush to like come up on it, and then the lion jumps out to get the gazelle, and then the lion gets tackled by Craven, and then
Wow.
he bends down and breaks the jaw of the lion, and then he's like, yeah, I'm not finding challenges here anymore. And that's when his brother Chameleon shows up and says, "Hey, I've moved to New York. I'm under the disguise of somebody. I'm buying out Oscorp Industries. They have a lot of cool tools, and I found out that there is a young man there with powers of a spider." And Craven's like, "Oh, the great spider. Like I've heard of this legend. I want to go to New York and hunt this thing." And then when he gets to New York, he tries to kill Spider-Man, but then the lizard shows up, and then he pursues the lizard, and the story becomes
Wow.
Spider-Man trying to save the lizard from Craven. And that was our screenplay we wrote. So when I was watching this, and it's clear they pulled from some of the same comic books that me and my friends did, and I was like, that's amazing. So I'm excited, and I love the bait and switch where you thought the first guy they showed was like a redesigned Craven, and I was like, I'm not feeling this
Yeah.
shaved head, tattoo on his head. I'm like, I don't like this Craven. And then he gets killed by the real Craven, who's like a foot taller than him. I'm like, okay, I love this game already.
Yeah. I think that they actually gave a lot of us a scare initially when that part came on,
Yeah,
when the trailer first came on, because the first thing I was thinking is, okay, this is not Spider-Man.
right.
Surely we didn't, watch this showcase and they showed nothing again. I mean,
Yeah,
people just would have been furious. But again, I was watching it, but when it got to the guy, like you said, with the shaved head,
yeah.
it showed like the leopard print
On his
um
arms. Yeah,
exactly on his arm.
yeah.
And so I was kind of like, well, is that Craven? And again, I began to, critique the design. But then, like you said, when the real Craven showed up, I was just like, oh my God, yes. So this game, man, I'm telling you, it is phenomenal. As great as it looks, though, think about this, Seek. This is the same studio. As excited as we are for Marvel Spider-Man 2, this is the same studio that's also getting ready to bring us Wolverine. I mean, what could that look like? I just think that, right now, if I had to say that, I would trust somebody with all of my IPs, if I was in Marvel's shoes, I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's it's definitely them. I mean, they're getting a chance to do Wolverine. So from the ground up, they're putting their own universe together. And of course, a lot of people want to see the Hulk versus Wolverine, but that's a whole nother story, man. I think with Spider-Man 2, it's just no telling, because I didn't expect the first game, Spider-Man PS4, to be as intricate as it was. The
yeah.
different stories, Vulture, Rhino. I mean, so many boss battles, Fisk, just a lot going for it, man. The hype is just unreal right now. I see some mixed reviews in the chat that I want to highlight.
Yeah,
Some are saying that they hope it's not Peter, as Venom.
yeah.
Some are saying that, it'll probably be Eddie Brock. It should be Eddie Brock. So, yeah, Novel, we all got baited with that one for sure. And I agree with that. We just need to let them cook, man. I mean, because
That's right.
right now they know how to make a great game and they know how to tell a phenomenal story. So, showing us that much again out the gate with a 12-minute preview of the game, man, there's plenty more to show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So I also saw another game, Phantom Blade Zero, that
yeah.
caught my attention at the PlayStation Showcase. I did not know that was in development. There's another game, The Perceiver, that's
Mhm.
been on my radar for about 10 months now that's kind of the same type of game. So I was looking forward to seeing something about that. But then Phantom Blade Zero pops up, and I was just like, wow. So again, this was a phenomenal showcase, man. I think we had a lot of good games revealed, and like you said, there's a lot of sequels. Blade Runner 2, there's just so much. I think it was Dogma. What's the name of that?
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah,
From
Dragon's Dogma
Capcom.
2. And all of these games just look great. I think that I like to tell people we're in a golden era of gaming right now. 2023 is another golden era of gaming. Every so many years there's just a breakthrough in the gaming industry, and I think we're in that time right now. Both of us are huge fans of Final Fantasy, as it's already been said.
Mhm.
So June 22nd, man, Final Fantasy 16, the next installment in this story, man. Are you looking forward to that? You gonna pick that up?
I'm debating because because I am not I work. I'm mainly the work personality in
Sure.
our system. So I switch. I have alters. So and they all have their own goals and lives and projects they try to do and work on. So my time is even more limited than it typically would be. So I have to be very choosy on what games I'm playing. Like I started God of War Ragnarok like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't even had time to go back to it since. And
Mhm.
I just defeated Midnight Suns after playing it for 5.5 months. So it takes me some time. So what I'm
Sure.
worried about is if I start Final Fantasy, will I beat it in time before Alan Wake comes out? Uh,
Yes. Yes.
and I really, really, really want to play Alan Wake when it comes out. So we'll see. But I am a Final Fantasy fan, and the trailer they showed looked amazing. So I hope I get the opportunity to play through that throughout the summer. That would be a great game to play. Yeah. But
Absolutely.
if not, I'm still gonna watch you play it. Definitely.
Yeah, yes. Now I'm gonna be streaming it, but now I
Okay.
will say this. Me and you again are alike in so many ways, bro, because that's kind of how I am. There are some games that I won't touch or
Mhm.
play, especially if it's something that's coming up that's releasing soon. Or if I hear that a game is shorter, like I just recently played through the DLC of Forspoken in Tanta We Trust, which was extremely short. Now, I will say I wasn't expecting it to be that short, but I'm not upset about that because again, there's so much coming out that I don't really want to be committed to a game and then something else that I'm wishing for more. I don't want to, like you said, not finish it. So I totally understand that makes a lot of sense. I had a lot of games in my backlog. I did that once. I think in
Yeah.
21 I was trying to play maybe 10 games at
Yeah.
one time, and I I
Yeah.
can't do it anymore, man. It's
Yeah.
just it's overwhelming. So what I did was I said, okay, I'm not buying anything else for the rest of the year. We're going to finish these 10 games, which I finally got through all of them. But I said I would never do that again. So I get it, man. Well, listen. As we get ready to near a close, man. I mean, you have dropped a wealth of information and perspective, especially as it relates to Venom, and that's actually content that I'll probably get ready to make in just a second from that point of view, because I never thought about it that way. I guess the first thing for us to do is really assess, you know, what where did this symbiote come from? You
Right.
know, because that makes all the sense in the world, man. I've not every person that I've talked to, I've never heard it's spoken of like that, or assessed like that we really can't jump to a conclusion yet over what's going to be, because again, we don't know if this is something made in a lab. We
Right.
just don't know.
Right.
But yeah, man, what are your final thoughts about Marvel Spider-Man 2 as we get ready to experience greatness, man, in September?
Greatness together. I love that.
Yes.
Be greater together with the symbiote and Miles's Venom strike on it. Yeah, Venom is in the comic books. Venom is the one who killed Miles's mother, and then Carnage bonded with Miles during the Absolute Carnage crossover. So Miles has a history with symbiotes too. In fact, right now in the comics, he's fighting him and Iron Man are fighting Carnage in Carnage Reigns, the new crossover. So there's a lot of symbiote stuff with Miles from the movie
Sure.
coming out next week and this game. Um, I'm just excited to be here. Like you said, I, I've been very blessed. Like a lot of people, like who are into this kind of fandom and stuff, like, being 41 years old, even though I don't remember anything before 30, I still rewatched most of it. And
Sure.
I'm like, what a life I had to grow up in and surrounded by stuff that I love, characters like Ghost Rider and Venom and Spider-Man and stuff. It's like it's such a privilege. And that's why I think I automatically am just not bent out of shape when I see a new take on them, because I'm just happy that, like, I always say Superman, his kryptonite came from the radio show in the 40s. So people are like, oh, Superman, you got to be a purist. And I'm like, yeah, but if it wasn't for the radio show, we wouldn't have had that. We wouldn't have had like Perry White.
Absolutely.
So like you need new takes on things so that these characters can live another 30 or 40 years. And if that's what you care most about is the longevity of the character, like I do, then I'm down for new takes. So I'm curious. And like I said, for me, it's all about story. So when I saw the symbiote again, I'm like, man, we still, after all these years, after beating the first game, we have no idea where this thing came from. Did Osborn find
Yes.
it from space on a meteor? Did he create it in a lab? Like, so because we don't know that, that's going to completely change the trajectory of what stories you can tell in this game and how the suit's going to work. So again, I think with the first Insomniac game and the Miles game, they've earned my trust. Even if I don't like what they do in the end, I'm still going to give them the benefit of the doubt right now because they've earned it. So that's my final thoughts, is that I'm just excited. And no matter what, I'm streaming Alan Wake this year and Spider-Man for sure, and probably Alone in the Dark, because I saw a thing on that with David Harbour and Jomi I forget her name. She's from the movie with Ryan Reynolds where he's in the video game. Jodie Comey, I think is her
Oh,
name.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
those three games, like, and are definitive. I'm gonna make time for. So yeah, my final thoughts are Insomniac. Take it away, man. We're gonna let you cook, and when that game comes out, I can't wait to play it.
Awesome, man. Great stuff, brother. And my sentiments exactly. Insomniac, we trust. Keep doing what y'all are doing. And I know that this game is going to just blow our minds and blow us away. Also, there's probably going to be future DLC. So I'm pretty sure we've got a lot to look forward to. And this is only the beginning. Man, thank you so much for your
You're
time,
welcome.
Seek. We were honored to sit down with you and have this opportunity to chat on the podcast, a deeper level. Again, I'm going to roll this across the bottom. Make sure that you go to YouTube right now at the Venom Vlog and subscribe to this young man right now. He is also on Instagram. You can find him there as well. And trust me, this will not be his last time on the deeper level. Appreciate you
Yeah,
for
all
your
right.
time. Again, this is Seek and Deeper Depth signing out on the deeper level. We'll see you again on the next stream. Peace.
Bye.